go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live.
All right, Tuesday morning, 11 a.m. Phoenix time. I apparently cannot tell time. I am off by an hour. So I apologize. I'm an hour late here. I appreciate everybody that tunes in live on Facebook. Of course, it doesn't matter to that. Those of you that listen on the podcast system, let's get to it, man. So much news this weekend. It is absolutely ridiculous what is going on in the world in terms of sports right now with college football winding down. Of course, ASU destroyed U of A on Friday night. Cardinals got back on their winning ways. NFL kickers missing stuff everywhere. NBA preseason starting up. Kyrie Irving kind of takes back a little bit of what he said about his head coach earlier. Just fantastic stuff going on in world of sports these days. Let me check out the sound here. As you know, I am the producer of this show as well as the host. So let me check out the sound here. All right. I hesitate to say I sound good because then I'm setting myself up for some comments about how I don't sound good. Right? So, on there. So, yeah, where do we even want to begin on this, right? As we go forward. So, Kyrie Irving, of course, last week. Let's just go right into NBA. Let's get the NBA out of the way. Preseason started. CP3 played, finally played. A lot of these stars are sitting out these preseason games. Not a shocker, right? I've been reading all these things about, oh, these guys look good, stuff like that. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's literally preseason basketball. None of it matters at all, right? Am I wrong? Somebody tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't think it matters at all. But Kyrie Irving, of course, last week or a couple weeks ago on Kevin Durant's podcast, comes out and says, basically, we have no head coach. He says, sometimes the coaching will be me. It's a collaborative effort, is what he said. He said sometimes head coach will be me. Sometimes the head coach will be KD. Sometimes, it'll be other things. What he says, right? Well, after that all goes down and they start having their practices, all of that good stuff, Kyrie Irving, as of yesterday, comes out. And after being coached by Steve Nash for a few weeks, says, quote, I think I got to take back my comments from a few months ago, unquote. Of course, he's referring to what he said on the podcast where he said, quote, I don't really see us as having a head coach. Man, does Kyrie Irving walk stuff back faster? Can he walk it back any faster? It's amazing what happens to these guys, right? Now it doesn't take any situation out of it. The question still remains: is he going to listen to Steve Nash? Just because he says that, it doesn't mean that it's actually going to happen. Is he going to actually listen to Steve Nash? Is he going to ignore him? What about KD? Because KD agreed with him on that podcast and everything. So, Kyrie Irving's mad that people are focusing on what he says. That's what's funny about it. He's upset that the media is literally taking his words and mocking him and making fun of him for his words, and he gets so mad about it. It's great to watch him struggle with it. Absolutely. Kyrie Irving's like, hey, you guys are just pawns. The media's just pawns. You guys take my stuff out of context. No, they take your stuff right right off your podcast there. So Kyrie Irving, of course, comes out and says that, he's going to walk back his stuff now. So at what point do we give up on the James Harden moving thing, right? So he's about to make his preseason debut, and he's going to play tonight. Now that he's practicing with the Rockets, he's going to play tonight, according to all the press releases. So at what point do we give up on the James Harden is being traded talk, or he wants to be traded talk, and he just has to deal with playing for the Rockets this year? So I mean, you have the Nets jersey drama, the Nets drama in Brooklyn. You have the James Harden and the Rockets drama coming out this year. It's going to be a fantastic season for drama. The Suns came out. People have been asking about fans. The Suns came out and said no fans for the first half of the season, at least. Some fans are going to allow them. The Orlando Magic came out. They're going to allow 4,000 fans at home games going on this year. Of course, Orlando and Florida. Kevin Durant saw his first action for his first time in 552 days. I think it was last night. The Pistons did waive LiAngelo Ball, of course, the middle Ball brother of the boys there. Did you see the no-look pass that the number 3 draft pick, number 2 draft pick, Ball did in Charlotte the other night? It was fantastic. I actually tried to find that video to play it on here because that was really good. It was like, it looked like the old Showtime Lakers with Magic Johnson on there, looking away and throwing the ball to his left. I couldn't find it though. I don't know where I saved it at in all of my deals. It was a really good pass by the Balls. So NBA's going. NBA's taking off here, and buckle in. If you're an NBA fan, it's gonna be an interesting start to the season. How many guys aren't going to play? Of course, we're 22nd, I think, is the first. So next Tuesday or next Wednesday is the first night of it, with a few of the real games starting. How many big name guys are going to play? We don't know. Absolutely not. It's going to have to see something that we see. I mean, the Pelicans came out and said that Zion is not going to have a quote-unquote minute structure when the season starts. Of course, famously, they got into the bubble last year, put him on a minute, lost their first game, whereas if he would have played, they would have won it. But they restricted his minutes, sat him down for the last 6 minutes of that game, and they ended up losing it. Zion posted 26 points, 11 rebounds in his first action in the preseason against the Heat. He's a big, big man to begin with, but the conversation with him is that he puts on a lot of weight. Isn't in shape to play. That boy looks like he's in shape now. That's for sure. He is phenomenal. His size out there, he is muscular, and if he stays in this thing, he's going to be hard to contend with. He's going to be a Shaq-like figure in there that's going to be hard to defend against. So, and the interesting thing about it is some of these stadiums the NBA is playing in, they haven't seen action in 9 months since March, right? Because if you didn't, first of all, whether you got the bubble or not, the home stadium saw no action in them for 9 months, right? But then some of these teams haven't played as a team since March, was when the season shut down last year. So if you didn't make it to the bubble, you're fresh and ready to go. I expect to see some of the teams that didn't make the bubble. I'm not saying they're going to be good. Don't take this out of context. But I think they're going to come out and be strong here to start the season, just because they're going to be gung-ho and ready to go. They didn't play since February, March, any meaningful games. It's going to be an interesting start to the season for the NBA. Of course, as it starts your Christmas time, right around when playoffs and crunch time is for the NFL. So they're going to go that route as we go in there. So how much of the NBA is going to be paid attention to at the beginning? Huge question there. Of course, on the radio show, we went through, top strength of teams in the Western Conference. Suns were ranked 8th in the strength of conference. I think that was an ESPN article. When I got it from, it might have been NBA.com. But big things are expected out of the West here for them. So if you're watching preseason football, I've only seen a few minutes. Like after the ASU U of A game the other night, I just left it on ESPN. I didn't change it. So I watched the beginning of whatever basketball game that was. I've seen a lot of the highlights, of course, and it's basketball. We'll see. We'll see what happens as it goes on. Of course, we'll delve into that a little bit more Friday, and then next week as the season actually starts for the NBA. But it's here, and if you're ready or not, it's here, and it is time to root for some of these teams if you're an NBA fan. NHL has the official start date of January 13th. They're still working on the conference deals. I was reading on there, meaning that they still are talking about doing the Canadian League, I guess you would call it, where all the Canadian teams play together because of travel restrictions in and out of Canada, and they were still waiting on some realignment issues there. So if Vancouver goes to the Canadian division, who's going to take their spot in the West, et cetera, to be out of there and make it even. I don't know what's going to happen, right? Notable news for you hockey fans, Avalanche GM, of course. This is the GM LaCroix, who made the Pierre LaCroix, who made the trades for Patrick Waugh for the Avalanche, Bork, Blake, huge players that got the Avalanche, and then they ended up winning the Stanley Cup Finals after he made those trades. Unfortunately, he passes away here, and at age 72 the other day, they won 2 Stanley Cups because of his trades and got him there, and they haven't they were good last year, but they've struggled a couple years in a row now. So another good GM here for the in the NHL does pass on and that stuff. So a lot of hockey guys are going out this year as well. So, but January 13 looks to be the start date on that. The union has approved it, so we're less than a month away for NHL hockey to start as well. Woohoo! Exciting times there. So, one thing I do want to touch on, I know we've touched on it a few times here on the podcast, but we don't go into major discussions about it because it's early in the season. A lot of off-season. Last week, of course, I made fun of Duke and Coach K for being all righteous, and because he's losing, it looks like he's losing, and that's why he's complaining about everything. And we played, of course, the comments from Oklahoma. I think it was Oklahoma State's. Alabama's Auburn. One of them. I can't remember. Coach Oates comments about Coach K, and more college head coaches are coming out and kind of doing the same thing about Coach K. The guy is well respected in the college basketball circles, as he should be. He's a winner. He's been very successful in his career. He gets the recruits there, quote unquote, does things the quote unquote right way, right? But sometimes he has missteps, and this is one of them. And other people are coming out, calling him out for the absurdity of what he's doing and all of that stuff, right? So, but here locally in Phoenix, for those of you local, you know about this, but for those of you not local, big thing happened this week here in the Phoenix area where Grand Canyon University, which is over at Camelback and I-17 area roughly, has a really nice stadium over there. Seats 5,000 some odd people, and rocking crowd. They only had 350 in the stadium at the time. They played ASU, the Sun Devils, for the first time in basketball. Teams couldn't get together before for a lot of political and that type of reasons, right? And they played each other on Sunday. And it was interesting because I watched the game. I listened to the game as we, sat there in between football games and that. And there's something wrong with ASU's team right now. They have all these heralded people. They're learning to play together. They weren't able to gel with a preseason schedule or scrimmages against other teams. But there is something missing with these guys coming into this season. They're not clicking. Remy Martin had an awful first half and then rebounded, had a great second half. ASU wins with basically a last-second shot to beat GCU. GCU looked good in these games. This ups the expectations. GCU was supposed to have another good schedule this year, another good season this year. The expectations were high with their new coach, Coach Drew, and expectations were there for them to compete for that WAC title, but nobody's sure if they can get back New Mexico State like they've struggled with the last few years. They've got the talent there now, folks. Not because they played ASU so well. Their length is what is huge for them. The 7-foot kid in there and the 6'10" guy that can move the ball outside a little bit. They did struggle on three-pointers leading into that game. They did hit a few of those to keep the lead going there for the Lopes and everything. But it's just good. It'd be fantastic to have two good teams, college basketball teams, here in the Valley. And it's exciting times for that. But I'm telling you guys, there's something. ASU had all these high expectations. And, yeah, they got a gel. Bagley went out with an injury. He's supposed to be coming back. He's practicing again. But you've got to, watching this team, I don't know if it's a gelling issue. You need to watch it some more. They have some more tough games coming up. I know they have a Utah game before Christmas to watch in the Pac-12. Just a weird year for college basketball. I don't know what to expect from anybody moving forward by any stretch of the imagination, right, as we go forward. Zags, of course, the Gonzaga, they call them the Zags, and the new poll are still the number one team in the country. San Diego State had a big jump because, of course, they beat Arizona State on, I want to say Friday night. It was either Thursday or Friday night last week. They climbed 6 spots after they beat then number 23 Arizona State last week. They're up to number 18. And then with that loss and then beating GCU, Arizona State fell out of the rankings. I think it's going to be that. They started the season, 18th? And they fall out of the rankings, and then they got back into the rankings, and now they're back out again. I think it's just going to be one of those years for this team. Now, can they gel enough to do, if there is an NCAA tournament, can they gel enough to get there and go with it? So, college basketball is, starting off. Duke, of course, took off the rest of the preseasons. We talked about that. We'll have to see where it goes. No major upsets going on right now. But there are some good games if you're a college basketball fan out there. I haven't gotten into it too much. I've had a few of the games on, especially on nights when there's not football on, for instance, while I'm doing other stuff. And the games are wildly entertaining as the season has started here. Baylor keeps pausing their games because of COVID situation. They just postponed 2 other games. Excuse me here while I cough on you. So just like the college football season, college basketball is just going to have to be one of those where you're just going to have to take a pause, take deep breaths, and, deal with what comes our way on it, right? So it is what it is. As we move forward, some Major League Baseball news today coming out. You guys need to sit down for this one because this is going to be a shocker to anybody. What's going on? And I'm just disappointed. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here, right? I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. How about that, right? Here's the headline. Bob Nightingale, USA Today, comes out on Twitter with his article from USA Today. And it says, Major League Baseball union at odds on whether start of 2021 season should be delayed. Okay. Catches your eye. You're like, oh, great. What are we talking about now? And that good stuff, right? So you're thinking it's about money. You're thinking it's going to be another argument about rules and safety that the players are just going to throw away anyway and do what they want, right? Here we go. Are you ready for this one? If you haven't seen it, Major League Baseball. This is going to be a fight, by the way, for a lot of people in your regular jobs as well as sports teams, executives, and things like that. This is going to be a fight we're going to see a lot of coming up. I'm interested in seeing how it's going to turn out, right? Major League Baseball executives and owners, this is from the article, wanting players to be vaccinated before arriving to spring training, would like the 2021 season to be delayed until May, even if it means shortening the season to 140 or fewer games. So they're asking the players to take another pay cut, shorten the season to 140 games, because they want all the players to be vaccinated. Okay. Whatever. We don't talk about the COVID stuff and what side you fall on. Like, I don't give my opinion on that. I have opinion, of course, but we don't talk about that here, right? This is a fun little podcast, fun little show that we like to make fun of stuff. We like to laugh at the absurdity of what's going on out there in the world and things like that. The Major League Baseball's Players Association, believing it proved a year ago that teams can safely adapt to protocols, remember that, wants the season to start on time, playing all 162 games and full pay. Notice how the owners don't discuss pay at all? They just say, it's all right if we shorten the season to 140 or fewer games. They're okay with that. Major League Baseball Players Association, one, proved a year ago that teams can safely adapt to protocols. A week into the season, the Marlins go on a rampant strip club fest in Atlanta or whatever they went and partied at. Got the COVID, missed a ton of games. Didn't even finish their 80-game season. A lot of other teams, what was that? The Reds had two players. Was it the Reds? Indians had two players that went out and broke protocol and ended up getting shipped out of town. Seaver, or whoever it was for the Dodgers, I'm drawing a blank here. I think it was Corey Seaver, gets COVID literally during the Major League Baseball final game of the World Series. So how can the Major League Baseball Players Association come out and prove a year ago that teams can safely adapt to protocols? Well, they didn't do it they did at times, but not all the time, right? But then notice the other distinction here in this conversation. Playing all 162 games with full pay. They make it a point to say it in here. So just 2 months, back to the article, so just 2 months before pitchers and catchers are scheduled to report for spring training, we're back to this square one again. Same thing we were in June, July, August. Excuse me while my face itches. For those of you watching live, you got to watch me itch my face there. And the article goes on to say the issue that could further erode the trust between the two groups is whether owners take the stance that the season should be delayed until every player and staff member gets the vaccine. Obviously, it has to be collectively bargained. One National League owner, according to this article, says, quote, I don't see a snowball's chance in hell that spring training can start with protocols in place. I think there will be significant pressure for players to get the vaccine first before they go to spring training. And if that has to be moved back to April and play 130 games, so be it. But to have 162 games and start spring training at the normal time without players being vaccinated, that's just crazy. Does Arizona and Florida, with their cases spiking, really want teams with about 125 people each in each organization coming to town without vaccines? So that's one National League owner in favor, obviously, of moving it back, as you just heard. They gave that quote on condition of anonymity, anonymously, because of the sensitive nature of the issue. Then, an American League owner who also requested being anonymous, quote, I don't see any way spring training starts in February. Zero chance of that. I don't care if we play 140 games, 120 games, or 80 games. We have to make sure everyone is safe to do this right. Unquote. Keep in mind that with every game lost, this was the battle in June and July of last year. the battle was over money. Every single game lost means money out of the players' pockets. Of course, it means the same for the owners, but players have a shelf life, things like that, right? So a year ago, for instance, a 60-game season, I said 80 earlier, I meant 60, I apologize. A 60-game season that started July 23rd, the players were paid just 33% of their salaries. The union doesn't want another pay cut. That's why they're going to fight for the opposite side. Torey Lovello, interesting in this article, USA article, Bob Nightingale, says, quote, and this is from Diamondbacks manager Torey Lovello, our hometown team here in Phoenix. Quote, knowing what I know about last season, I feel that the 2021 season can be played in full. I'm hopeful for that. I'm just proud of everyone in the industry from top to bottom made that adjustment and made it work. We got to the finish line. There was a world champion for the 2020 season. So one manager comes out and says they think they can play it the way it is with with protocols in place. But buckle down. We're, like I said, 2 months away from pitchers and catchers reporting, and we are at a standstill again with the union. I'll tweet that article out on the show notes. I'll tweet it out at the Main Event Pod after the show. If anybody wants to read into that. Bob Nightingale, USA Today. So I'll tweet that out at the Main Event Pod. You guys can review it and read it. Just interesting times for Major League Baseball, right? I put it out on I retweeted it on Twitter. And I said, let me get the exact quote here. This morning. And I said, oh, goody. What we all want today, again, MLB, MLBPA fighting as usual. That's exactly right. If there wasn't an appetite for these guys fighting over money in June and July, you think it's any better now that we're still in COVID protocols, we're still in these situations and everything? Who thinks this is a good idea? I did get a response from Chief Skull on Twitter. He tweeted out also, and he said, both sides need to stop being whiny. I don't make millions, can't afford to stay home, have a heart condition that makes COVID-19 a real thing for me, but I have to go to work each day still regardless. Grow up baseball. Like I said, it's just one guy that feels that way. And a lot of people felt that way last year. A lot of people were on the player's side last year, but a lot of people like me blamed both sides. I know I took a lot of flack for being on the owner's side, but that's because the owners had a point as well. And the owner's point ended up being correctly that they needed a bubble and they needed to cut down the days and the games and everything because the players won't adhere to it. And the first weekend, the Miami Marlins go out and have fun and get caught. So we'll have to keep our eye on this. Who knows? You know how it goes. Their owners are saying move it back. Players are saying no, we're going to play. You know how this goes. Nothing's going to happen until we get close to it, and then somebody will blink or somebody won't. We'll just have to wait and see. Literally, wait and see. So I'll get that article tweeted out here in a bit. Like I said, after the show, for the show notes at the Main Event Pod. I appreciate everybody liking those pages. We put out the announcements and then, of course, all the show notes and articles that I review as I go forward here with everything. But I can't believe we're already 2 months away. I mean, basketball season's starting again. I feel like it just ended because it did. And now baseball's coming up. Hockey's getting ready to start. Football's rolling along. Is what it's going to be. So, big weekend, college football. We've been watching college football. We, of course, had the discussion about Ohio State, who deserves that fourth spot. There's a lot of questions on this weekend that we have to look forward to and deal with, right? Oop. So I'm doing my production here and screwing it all up. So you're going to see all the warts and everything here on this show as we go forward. Last weekend, of course, we do our 5-game pick-em. Me and All Access crew member, Mikkel, make our picks. Last week's game we had ASU at Arizona, Georgia at Missouri, North Carolina at Miami, USC at UCLA, Navy at Army. Well, it was a fun game to watch. Even with the reduced cadets and everything in there, midshipmen in there. It's a fun game to watch. The pomp and circumstance in that game was just phenomenal. Foggy, kind of drizzly day there. So me and Miguel both had the same picks in ASU at Arizona, Georgia at Missouri, North Carolina at Miami, and Navy at Army. And we won them all. ASU won, Georgia won, North Carolina won, Army won. How about North Carolina destroying Miami? We're going to talk about that here in a minute. The game we differed on was USC and UCLA. I thought this was the year that UCLA was going to be able to beat SC, crosstown rivals. SC has the better talent. SC's the better team than UCLA. I just thought the way 2020 was going, UCLA would be able to pull this one out. Well, I was wrong. I was completely wrong. USC won this game. I love the color differences in here. I love that blue, gold, white combo that UCLA wears. And USC won the game, so Mikel won. He went 5-0 this weekend. So wish I had a drum set on the computer, but I don't. So 5-0, Mikel. I went 4-1. And I'm just going to keep repeating it. I went 0-4 to start the season, so yay me. But I've improved since then. We can get the totals up on that. I know I keep saying I'm going to, but I've been working on it. Been a busy couple weeks with everything going on in life, in work, and filling in at the radio station, which is over now. I'm done filling in. I've got can't do it anymore. Can't fill in there anymore. Just with everything else going on, I need to concentrate on other things going on in my life and my shows again. So that's going to be nice to just have my show back on Wednesday night again. But I appreciate the opportunity to everybody for everything else for filling in there. So 4-1, 5-0. People were saying that the people aren't going to be firing coaches this year because of, budgets, things like that. Arizona State, of course, played Arizona on Friday night. We all know what happened. 70-7 finish. Just absolute stomping of the Wildcats down there. As an ASU fan, love to see it. I mean, you want to see a tighter game. Nobody wants to see a blowout. They get boring over time. But as a fan, it was great to see just the complaining and crying from Arizona fans. I'm not going to lie to you. Because if the situation was opposite, I would like to think that I would have just turned it off at halftime and pretended like the game didn't exist, right? I would have handled it that way. I wouldn't have been on Twitter, all upset about ASU running the score up. I wouldn't have been complaining who the next head coach is. Yeah, just move on with my life. And I'm a huge ASU fan. I want to see them do well. I don't live and die by the losses and stuff. So I'd like to think I would do that. Who knows? I've never been in that situation, thank goodness. But the interesting thing about it is U of A has laid off a bunch of workers there, right? Cutbacks in their departments. And rightfully so, they let the head coach disappear and let him go the next morning. I was surprised they did it so quick. $7.5 million payout for him to not coach there anymore. And this is like I said, this is a school that just, laid off a bunch of workers. And of course, it's Kevin Sumlin's the head coach there and they just laid off a bunch of workers, so they have a huge shortfall. But isn't it an interesting dichotomy down there in Tucson? I contend that there's an organizational issue down there that doesn't allow coaches to succeed. And if it was just Sumlin who failed there, I wouldn't have an angle on this, and I probably wouldn't be thinking it. But look, you have Sumlin that struggled. Rich Rod actually had some success there. Got him to a bunch of bowl games, with less, and he got him there. But everybody wanted him fired after that. We can do better, right? Then he got caught up in that scandal, and then he was gone. But before him, you have Makovich, and you can go down these coaches, four or five coaches now that have struggled down there at the university. And there's something in the culture, there's something in the university, and something in the way they hire people. I've read that it's because they hire guys that got fired at their previous job and they're bringing them in. And then Kevin Sumlin had a lot of additional stuff at A&M that he just didn't have at Arizona. So can guys go backwards like that? Because when guys going down the ladder of career ascension, if they're going backwards, can they go to a school like Arizona and win? I don't know. I think it would take a special person to do that. But at the same time, he should be hungry enough to want to get back to an A&M school or a bigger school like that. But there's something down there that doesn't allow these football coaches to go. And isn't it interesting on the dichotomy, if you even step it farther back, how much leash they give to Sean Miller, their basketball coach. He's been there, and I'm spitballing here, so if my years are off and everything, forgive me. But let's say I think he's been there 12 years. I'm just going to say 12 years. Never been to a Final Four. That was always the standard for U of A basketball until Sean Miller got there, was Final Fours. Final Fours. Final Fours are what we play for. This is what we go for. This is anything less than Final Four. It's a disappointing year. Oh, wow. I got some breaking news here in a second that just coming across. Sean Miller has failed the standards of Arizona. He has all this controversy. His assistant coach went to jail for paying players and, fraud and all of this stuff, and yet they keep him around. It's amazing the difference between what they do with football and basketball, and being a basketball school, more pride in basketball than they are football, why they let their basketball program suffer as much as they have while having less of a leash for their football program. I'm interested in this. I'm not bashing them for it or anything like that. Don't take it that way at all. I'm sitting back looking at it saying, why the long leash on the basketball program, not on the football program? And like I said, someone has been taking this school backwards, whether I'm not blaming him. This year, COVID year, right? He had a bunch of players opt out at the beginning of the season. He had players transfer. Remember when the Pac-12 wasn't going to play? I got to open my Dr. Pepper here, so I apologize, everybody. Dr. Pepper sponsorship that I don't have. But, some of his best defensive players transferred before the season started because the Pac-12 said they weren't going to play football. He was handicapped from the beginning. The team went even farther backwards this year than they did in years past. He gets the boot. But losing 70-7 is just unacceptable in any college football ranking. So just interesting thing I like to bring up here about U of A, right? But even then, so Arizona loses a coach. Gus Malzahn, of course, Auburn gets rid of Gus Malzahn out there, who's been there for 8+ years. Another down year for a head coach in a 2020 COVID year. They were ranked to start the season, went backwards pretty quickly. I get it. They have high expectations. They want to do all that. Then you've got Vanderbilt, of course, fired their coach earlier. South Carolina fired their coach earlier. Frank Beamer's son, and I apologize, sir, I don't remember your first name right now, I got the South Carolina job. Of course, Frank Beamer being from Virginia Tech all those years. Was it Virginia Tech or Kansas State? One of those two. Virginia Tech was Frank Beamer. Bowl games are being canceled all over the place. Teams are saying they're not going to go to bowl games. They're now talked that the Rose Bowl is going to, which is the college football play semifinal. No fans are allowed. No family members are allowed at the teams. They're now talking about moving the semifinal out of the Rose Bowl and moving it to a more friendly city like AT&T Stadium in Texas where the Cowboys play. That especially would make sense since no Pac-12 teams being in it, the heavy restrictions in California, And the fact that the teams that are going to be in it are probably going to be an ACC team and a SEC team, or or two of each. It makes sense to not make them travel that far, right? Art Briles, of course, the Baylor head coach that had to resign due to a lot of scandal at Baylor. Couldn't find a job anywhere. Ended up going and coaching at a high school, Mount Vernon High School. He has resigned as the coach of that high school. So now the speculation is going rampant on where he's going to go. Vanderbilt hired Notre Dame's assistant coach, Clark Lea, I believe is how you say it. It was Notre Dame's defensive coordinator as this new head football coach. So we're seeing a lot of movement when people didn't think there'd be a lot of movement here for head coaches. Of course, who's Arizona again? They're that's a tough one down there. I read a nice thing, and I apologize for whoever tweeted it out. It was a blue checkmark guy that follows Arizona football and Arizona sports, University of Arizona. And he tweeted out and said he's been saying for a while that Arizona needs to hire a coach that can do more with less, not a coach that, has done less with more. Meaning, for instance, Texas A&M getting fired there with a lot more and then having to go to a school like that and doing the same thing with less seems to be a bad thing there. So some of these young guys in these small conferences, those don't always work either. Ask an Arizona State fan. Dirk Cutter, wasn't very glamorous as an ASU head coach. He came from Boise State, of course. So it happens. Of course, this weekend, we'll talk about games coming up, but it's championship weekend here on the 19th, which is Saturday. That starts, I believe, Friday night. College football playoffs is getting set up, or we've talked about it before. We'll talk about it here in a minute. But one thing the Pac-12 is doing with all of their leadership awesomeness, right? God, you got to love the Pac-12. Can we look more stupid? So Washington is supposed to play USC in the championship football game. I believe that's Friday night. The Huskies, Washington Huskies, have been hit with COVID, all of that good stuff. So they're unable to field the 53 scholarship players needed to play. So they can't be in the championship game. So what does the Pac-12 do? So you have an undefeated USC, 5-0. They're in the talk for the championship. A lot of things have to go their way, but they're in the talk to get in the championship playoffs, right? They're right there on the outside. A lot of things have to change to get in. They're probably not going to get in, but they're right there, right? So Washington has to bow out. And who do they put in instead? Of course, Washington. Their first game was canceled at Cal. They beat Oregon State. They beat Arizona. They beat Utah. They lost to Stanford. And then their Oregon game was canceled, of course, last weekend, as we just said, because of that. So they're 3-1. And they put Oregon in there. Oregon's record is 3-2. If Oregon wins this game against SC, the champion of the Pac-12 is going to have a 4-2 record. 2 losses. It just looks bad for the Pac-12. Looks horrendous for the Pac-12 to be put in this situation. You can't have a team with 2 losses win your division. I can't believe it, but do you root for Oregon to win and win the Pac-12 with 4-2 record? Because then they win it over a if USC loses, they'll win the Pac-12 at a 4-2 record over a USC team that's 5-1. If it goes that way. Good job, Pac-12. You guys are geniuses. Just ridiculous. I don't understand it. I don't like it. It's dumb, right? So, of course, the Cal Arizona game has been canceled. Cal doesn't have enough players to play. Arizona claims they don't have enough players to play. Shocker, with an interim head coach. So that was canceled. on Sunday, actually, right after it was announced. Arizona State does go to Oregon State. I know a lot of people say this game doesn't matter, but it kind of does. It leads to it's a momentum game for the offseason. Or Arizona State, I don't know why they have to go to Oregon State, because Arizona State, why not play it down here? But Arizona State needs to go there. If they win and I want to see what they do after a 70-7 dismantling of the head coach there on the deal. By the way, I forgot to tell you guys, Gus Malzahn is getting paid $21.7 million to be fired from Auburn. Yeah. Life's rough for him. I mean, you think... hold on one second here. Just college football time. So we'll get into the college football deal and everything. I need to take care of something separate here. So I'm going to take a break here for a couple minutes. I'll be right back.
Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast.
All right. Woo! I'll get that edited out of the podcast version and everything. Apologize for that. I'm not little insight into my life. I just Alt Productions and the have a investing company with houses. A lot of you already know about, and dealing with all that. We had a huge water leak on one of the properties yesterday, and like flooded the house, flooded the outside of the house. So there's a tenant in there, of course. So, so I've been dealing with that, and they were there working on it. And I literally just need to talk to you with all these exclamation points and everything. So they're having problems with it. Water's everywhere. Trying to deal with that, insurance companies, all that fun stuff. So, like I said, a little insight into why I had to run real quick there. A little behind the scenes on the life of Steve sometimes. So, I'll get that out of the podcast version, but it's going to be stuck in the video version, of course. So, anyway, college football, as I said, a lot of changes, a lot of people getting fired, shockingly. This weekend, though, a lot of big games. And, of course, me and Miguel will get the games picked here over the next few days. We'll talk more about it on Friday's show. I'm not sure if there's a Wednesday night show yet. I need to make a decision if I want to go in and do a Wednesday night show. Some other issues are going on that I need to get it all taken care of. So probably will be. There'll definitely be one on Friday. Next week, we might have a surprise guest joining us in town. So we'll have to wait and see if that happens. But big weekend this weekend, right? Championship games. Then you got all their tiers. So like Ohio State's playing Northwestern. We talked about that. How Ohio State got let into the championship game, even with their only 5 wins against Northwestern. Northwestern wins, it ends that conference football talk. Ohio State wins. Like I said, my opinion is they're probably in the playoffs. The question then becomes, what do you do with, of course, Notre Dame and Clemson? Clemson, they play this weekend as well. If it's a blowout, and Clemson wins and it's a blowout, does that kick Notre Dame out and allow A&M to get in there? Florida is out because they, of course, lost this weekend to LSU with the best penalty play call ever, where the referee said unsportsmanlike conduct, throwing the shoe 20 yards downfield. Fantastic. Even though it did cost Florida the game. Fantastic job, referee. Love it. Love it. And there are a lot of questions. We can delve into it. We've done it before, but why? It doesn't matter. It's all going to work itself out. I've made my mentions clear about how I think, and we've seen other coaches now coming out and saying you got to play a full schedule to get into the playoffs. Diggs at Ohio State, and of course these are SEC. A&M's head coach did it last week, and I said, he's got an ulterior motive. Brian Kelly did it. Of course, he has an ulterior motive because he needs to win this weekend and be good in there, all that good stuff. As we go forward, let me find the rankings here really quick for this weekend. Of course, it's the same, right? Nobody lost. Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Clemson in the AP Top 25. Texas A&M is 5th. Cincinnati took the place of Florida to be 6th. A&M, of course, is done for their season. You know what? Do they have a game this weekend? They canceled last weekend. That's right. They do have Tennessee this weekend. So Tennessee is 7-1. They're going to be 8-1 if they beat Tennessee and right in that mix. Then the argument's going to be made. Let's say Ohio State does win, 6-0. Then you have Clemson, 9-1. Notre Dame, let's say Clemson beats Notre Dame, it's close. You'll have a 10-1 and 10-1. They're both in, if it's close. Alabama's in at 10-0. If they win this weekend, even if Alabama loses, they're in regardless, I think. So then it comes down to the argument, right? Texas A&M at 8-1, is that better than a 6-0 schedule with Ohio State? The only loss was to Alabama. That's the argument that they're going to have. I get it. Cincinnati's 8-0. They could be 9-0. They played Tulsa this weekend. I'm sorry, it's just not good enough. A&M's going to be the better school there. Interesting things to watch. We'll see this weekend. We can argue and fight about it all we want. Nothing we say is going to matter. But if there's upsets this weekend, if Northwestern somehow beats Ohio State, they're done, obviously. A&M loses, that conversation goes away. It could be that those are the 4 best teams. If Texas A&M loses this weekend, but then Cincinnati will have an argument to get in there, right? As well. So SC's trying to make an argument for it. Of course, their athletic director's not doing it at all, not doing them any favors at all by any stretch. So the breaking news I was talking about earlier real quick. So that's college football, first of all. As we move forward here. And we'll see what happens this weekend. Of course, good job picking the games this weekend, Mikhail. It's awesome. 5-0 for you. Of course, I went 4-1. And fantastic job, man. Good job. We're gonna have. I'm trying to decide now if we're gonna break it down. We're gonna do obviously all the conference championships, 5 of those. We might add a couple bet bonuses in here as well as we go forward. But the breaking news I was talking about earlier that hit the phone there when I said, ooh, breaking news earlier, of course, is from the NBA. And a lot of huffing and puffing on if players want to play in the big markets only, if they want to stay in these smaller markets, things like that. And I think we have our answer. A lot of questions on if the Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I apologize to him. No disrespect. I can't pronounce your name. It says sources are saying that he's signing a contract extension with the Bucks. 5-year, $228.2 million. That's a super max extension with the franchise. That's the largest deal in NBA history. A lot of hit or miss on if he's staying, if he wants to go, and all of that good stuff. He obviously wants to stay for that kind of money, for now at least. We'll see in a couple years, right? And remember, the Bucks' big thing was bringing a lot of characters to show that they'll bring whoever he wants in. They even said that they'll go over the luxury cap in order to show him that they want players to be there. And they've done it, right? They have definitely done it. So there you go. Breaking NBA news for everybody. Just happened a few minutes ago. Woohoo! Be interesting to see who else they can get to go play with them there. Absolutely. They're going to have to keep improving. There's no doubt about that in order to keep going forward. So NFL-wise, man, what a weekend in NFL, right? What an ending to the NFL weekend on top of it. Last night's game, Cleveland and the Ravens, was fan-freaking-tastic. Right? All the drama in the world, Ravens were going away with it. Lamar Jackson has to go to the locker room. The comedy writes itself on Twitter. They say he has cramps. Everybody's saying he had to go poop. So a lot of funny stuff going on with it. But basically, Mayfield takes the back. Browns take the lead by 1. McSorley for the Ravens gets hurt. They have no more quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson has to come out of the locker room, leads him down to score a touchdown. On 4th down, no less. Goes into the game on 4th down. Converts it for a touchdown, and they win. Last night was just drama. It was just game-packed. The Ravens show they're not dead yet. They need to keep winning to make the playoffs. They would have lost last night. Woo, excuse me.
So it is first.
They would have missed the playoffs a little bit this year. The thing that made it interesting was Lamar Jackson was running everywhere all over the Browns last night. But when he had to go to the locker room, they became stale on offense, and their defense could not stop the Browns at all. But when he came back out, it showed how the offense runs differently with Lamar Jackson back there when they're on. And as I said, he came back out on 4th and 5, ran into the field. Could have picked it up on his own, but no, he found Marquise Brown open, launched the ball to him. He caught it, ran it in for a touchdown to win. Just an amazing pass and throw coming out of the locker room. He could have picked it up, like I said, on the first down. Marquise Brown has several drops in this game. He was putting faith in him that he'd be able to catch an easy ball. Baker Mayfield showed up last night. He was impressive in the showing. Went toe-to-toe. He brought him back. Basically a game-tying drive. Went down there and scored to make it. It was a 14-point game. Went down and scored. They went for 2 to make it a 6-point ball game. Took him down the field again and scored when Lamar Jackson was out. Justin Tucker, of course. Baker Mayfield, of course. So then they go down. Score again. The Browns. I'm all getting confused on how many times they went back and forth. So the Browns take the lead by 1. Lamar goes down and scores. Coming back out of the locker room. They go for 2 and they get it. So they're up by 7. Then the Browns go down the field. Score again. Touchdown. Kick the extra point this time instead of going for 2. Got ahead of myself there. And then the Ravens get the ball back. Lamar Jackson, he drives him down the field. Justin Tucker kicks the game-winning field goal. Lamar Jackson's back. I mean, that COVID spout and everything, he's back in there. He looks good again. I don't know what was going on before. Last 2 games, he's looked really good. It's been great to watch. Browns were impressive too, even though they lost. Baker Mayfield showed up. Takes a lot of heat from missing open receivers all the time, not seeing the defenses. But Baker Mayfield looked good. This was not on Baker Mayfield, this loss at all. Just the Ravens had the ball last and the defenses couldn't stop each other. I mean, Mayfield had 3 touchdowns total, 343 yards passing. The thing that was interesting about that was Nick Chubb only had 17 carries. Mayfield did have the 1 interception that was pretty bad, but he brought the team back. They're down by 14, brought them back to tie it and make it a game at the end there. Kareem Hunt was good. Kareem Hunt's stud for that Browns team. And it's just funny to watch all this talk about field goal kickers and all of that stuff. Justin Tucker is, as reliable can get. Kicked the game-winning kick from 55 yards. Excuse me. Well, yawn on you. Browns are 9-3, 9-4 now. They're still great. They're still good in there. Nothing to hang your head about. You went toe-to-toe with a team that, with an MVP from last year. And what did they win last year? 12 games. And this year they've struggled, but they're in a fight. Ravens need a win to stay in the playoffs. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the Ravens went out there and did what they're going to do. That AFC is tough. They're still on the outside looking in. And they need to basically win out in order to get to the playoffs. But then who's going to get knocked out, right? We'll talk about that here in a minute when we get to it.
1 millionth order.
I love how commercials just start playing when they're muted all the time. Other games this weekend. It was a good weekend of football. Then we'll get into some news here. You had the Bills played Pittsburgh. Man, Josh Allen's on fire. Bill, I'm telling you guys, Bills are the second best team in the AFC. They're not as good as the Chiefs. They're better than the Steelers. And they proved it on Sunday night. Josh Allen is fantastic, running around, throwing the football. Josh Allen is a stud, that whole team. The thing that worries you is the defense of the Bills cannot stop the run very well, which was interesting on why the Steelers didn't run the ball more. I don't understand why the Steelers aren't running it. But prior to this game on Sunday night, the Steelers did clinch a playoff berth because other teams lost. So they're in the playoffs. They're 11-2, but they lost the number 1 seed to the Chiefs now. So they would have had a bye, and now they're in the second deal there. They're not done. They still have to play the Colts coming up and the Browns. The Colts Steelers offense is sputtering a lot. Run game is non-existent, which is unusual for a Steelers game. I thought they would run more with Connor coming back. Their defense is good, but getting injured. They're losing players for the season. Good, solid players. Steelers need a little bit of worry here going into it. I mean, they're making the playoffs, but they need to put some wins together here or they're going to fall down. And like I said, the Bills' defense and run game especially is the biggest worry for them. And they look good. They shut down them. Shocker of the weekend, I think, right? Eagles over the Saints, 24-21. A 10-2 team in the Saints, number 1 seed in the NFC, got beat by Jalen Hurts and a backup quarterback. Jalen Hurts didn't exactly throw the ball a ton, but he sure did run a lot. The Eagles built a 17-0 lead in the first half. Miles Sanders for the Eagles rushed for 115 yards, 2 scores on 14 carries. The Eagles went to more of an option style running for Hurts. But he had I think it was, he had 100-plus rushing yards in his first career start. He completed, here's the interesting thing, he completed only 17 of 30 passes for 167 yards. Only 17 of 30, just over 50%. I don't know what happened to the Saints defense. One of the best defenses in the league just couldn't figure out Hurts. And the best part is the Eagles come into town to play the Cardinals this weekend with Jalen Hurts as the starter. They've already announced him as the starter. Philadelphia's defense was able to stop the Saints' offense. Now, Taysom Hill I don't think is an NFL quarterback. I know it's funny to say because he's only lost 1 game as a starter, but you see struggle. This offense of the Saints has struggled. They have a big game this week. Drew Brees is going to be back any week now, so they're just trying to hold on at this point, right? But again, Taysom Hill is just a marker in there, and they must think highly of him if they keep putting him out there to struggle and not do all that, right? He had a fumble, he had an interception that he threw. It was deflected. He had an interception on that. Even his 2 touchdown passes were weird throws that the receivers got and had to go up and get, and they bailed the quarterback out. Saints without Drew Brees are going to have a hard time winning in the playoffs, and that game showed it. Jalen Hurts. But now we have game film. The Cardinals have game film on Jalen Hurts this weekend, so hopefully we can get a better job here of defending him until the Eagles can't come in here and beat the Cardinals. The Chiefs at the Dolphins. Look, Dolphins defense is phenomenal. Brian Flores has done a great job this year. They're not even close to being in Kansas City Chiefs mold and area right now, right? So Miami falls to 8-5 with this. The interesting thing is Miami's defense caused Patrick Mahomes to throw 3 interceptions, his first 3-interception game of his career. 2 of them came off deflections. Miami's defense played well. They had a 10-0 lead in this game, but the offense couldn't get going. When you get turnovers, you have to score touchdowns. If you follow my Cardinals Rewind podcast, that is my favorite thing in the world. Get a turnover, score points. Get a turnover, score points. Miami didn't do it. And especially against a key team like the Chiefs. You get a turnover, you better score a touchdown, right? And they didn't do it. Chiefs ran away with it after that. Of course, the Chiefs, as I said, get into the number 1 spot in the AFC. 12-1 on the season. Tyreek Hill is just a man on that offense. He is just amazing to watch in that offense. Tua showed that he's still young, but he shows promise. You see a lot of good promise in Tua. Tagovailoa. My tongue's all tied today. I apologize. I don't even know why I tried it. A game that helped the Cardinals this week. Vikings at the Buccaneers. Buccaneers won 26-14. Woo-wee. Tampa Bay's defense showed up in this one, especially in the fourth quarter. Buccaneers in that fourth quarter held Minnesota scoreless in the final quarter. That pass rush was unbelievable. Tampa Bay had 6 sacks against Kirk Cousins just on this day. Here's the thing, though, right? Vikings fans got to be pulling their hair out. Dan Bailey, the kicker for the Vikings, missed the point after attempt. It's his third one in the last 2 weeks. He missed field goals from 36 yards, 54 yards, and 46 yards. Woo! Vikings with this loss, and I'm not putting it all on the place kicker. That's 10 points he left on the field. So if you just add 10 to 14, I know math's not my strong point, right? 26-24 Buccaneers. They still would have lost. But obviously you change things, stuff like that. I understand all that. I'm being just showing how 10 points in there. But the team can't have confidence in the field goal kicker. We see that here in Arizona with Zane Gonzalez and all of that stuff, right? The other thing that was interesting in this game, the Vikings need a win to get in the playoffs. They were in the 7th spot. Now they switch with the Cardinals again. Cardinals win out. They're in the playoffs. Vikings lose. The Cardinals are in the playoffs. This is the only thing they got to worry about behind them, besides the Bears. But the Bears have to win out. We all don't see that happening. But Dalvin Cook made the number 1 rushing defense in the Buccaneers look average. Dalvin Cook had 49 rushing yards in the first quarter alone. He wasn't being tackled. He was able to break tackles easy. Obviously, when Tampa Bay built a big lead, Minnesota turned to the passing game. But Cook finished 22 carries for 102 yards. Interesting enough, that's the first 100-yard rusher against Tampa Bay since week 9 of 2019. So Dalvin Cook's a stud there. Absolutely. But glad the Vikings lost as a Cardinals fan, but Vikings are in trouble here now. Which is interesting that they're even in the playoff race with their start, but they're right there. It's good. Mike Zimmer's done a good job getting the Vikings back into it. I'm not a Zimmer fan. I don't think they should have extended him. I think they could find somebody better as a head coach. But you got to give him credit for getting him back to 6 wins after their horrendous start. They're in the playoff race after that start. Colts over the Raiders. Jonathan Taylor looked amazing as a Colts running back over the weekend. He outran a defensive back for a 62-yard score, touchdown. He had a 150-yard career day for him, of course, being a rookie. Great game here in this one. The Colts offense looked good, right? As much as Phillip Rivers gets maligned, he looked good. Raiders defense was the problem here. I mean, there's some blame to put on the offense, but that defense was just shrouded. It was just tired. After the game, the Raiders fired Gunther, the defensive coordinator. I gave the stat yesterday when I was filling in on the blender. My last time there. About the difference here, right? The Raiders, of course, fired defensive coordinator Paul Gunther with 3 games to go. And according to Ian Rappaport on his Twitter feed, where I saw this, frustration for the defensive coaches has been building for a while. Las Vegas spent $52 million more on their offense than on their defense, including more at the backup quarterback position than the entire cornerback position on the defense. The defensive coaches wanted more. They weren't getting all the talent for the Raiders is going to the offense. You know, they got rid of, the defense coordinator. It's not going to help the Raiders at all. They're in that tough AFC. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. We're going to talk about that here in a minute on the playoff seedings. But, they obviously promoted somebody up to that defensive coordinator position. It's not going to help that defense this year. They just aren't spending to get the talent there. But then the Raiders offense has its problems as well, right? Of course, the Cardinals, for us here locally, Cardinals going to Giants in the Meadowlands. 26-7, Cardinals beat the Giants, of course. My friendly reminder to you guys that I do my Cardinals Rewind podcast every week. I'll be recording that probably tomorrow, getting that out either Wednesday night or Thursday morning for you guys. I review the game, go through and break out some things. And I am going to talk about the field goal position, the field goal kicker position in depth. I have some stats here and everything. And I know a lot of confusion gets into it where I say that they shouldn't have changed to Zane. I'm fine that they changed to him. Gave the team some confidence on it. But there's also something I'm worried about. It's something I'm thinking about with how the Cardinals leave long field goals. So I'll have that on that main event podcast coming up, right? But Cardinals started this great game amazing again. They have started these last 3 games amazing. Turnovers or immediate touchdowns. Marcus Golden lit up Daniel Jones, forced a fumble. Cardinals defense dominated that offense. It is a disservice. I will say this about the Giants offense. The Joe Judge and the Giants coaching staff did the team, they did Daniel Jones, they did the whole city of New York a disservice by starting Daniel Jones when he was not healthy. It was obvious he wasn't going to run the football. It was obvious he couldn't throw very well. He couldn't step into his throws. It was obvious his legs still bothered him. It was obvious he was limited. And they put him out there to basically just be a sitting duck. That's on the Giants. As a Cardinals fan, I appreciate it. But that's on the Giants, right? Daniel Jones was sacked 6 times. 5 sacks were by Hassan Reddick. Record game for him there. Absolutely awesome defensive effort by the Cardinals. Daniel Jones, of course, was benched. And Colt McCoy was sacked right away. And then he drove him down the field and scored a touchdown right off the bat. There was a pep when Colt McCoy went in there that wasn't there when Daniel Jones was in there. The Cardinals defense forced 5 3-and-outs, allowing just 10 first downs. The Giants had 58 yards in the offense in the first half, 15 passing yards. It finished with 159 total yards and was 3 of 12 on third downs. The Giants' offense is very much like the Cardinals' offense, where I've been saying Kyler Murray needs to run the football to make that Cardinals offense work. It's the same thing with the Giants, especially with Saquon Barkley out, their best running back. Jones wasn't able to run with his hamstring injury, and New York's offense became predictable, and the Cardinals' defense took advantage. DeAndre Hopkins stepped up finally. He got his fourth 100-yard-plus game. He got a 100-plus-yard-plus game. Nine catches on 11 targets, 136 yards. Kyler Murray struggled at the beginning. I was a little worried, but then he started scrambling the ball. His throw to Dan Arnold and the touchdown in the back of the end zone was phenomenal. He threw it to where only Dan Arnold could go up and get it or was going to go incomplete. Dan Arnold went up and got it. They have a working chemistry there between Murray and Dan Arnold. Absolutely. Murray finally ran it. 10 rushes for 52 yards. And the offense opened up for him. They still struggled in the red zone. Right off the bat after that turnover, stuffed 3rd and 1. Stuffed 4th and 1. Didn't get in the end zone. I can't understand why they haven't gotten better on the 3rd and 4th and 1 in those scoring positions or late in the game. They do well in the middle of the field with them, but not in those high-pressure situations. They were 2 for 7 in the red zone. Not good. Need to get some on there. Of course, Mike Nugent was the field goal kicker because Zane Gonzalez had a bad back, right? Went 4 for 4 on field goals, and everybody's all excited. They were all short field goals, all 37 yards and in. Zane Gonzalez was 2 for 2 in that same range of 31 to 39 yards, 30 to 39 yards, 2 for 2. The problem is on the long field goals. Cardinals they left one long field goal at the end of the first half where he left it short. Nugent left it short. That's my worry with this Cardinals offense, right? We've substituted to a accurate kicker closer, which Zane Gonzalez was also accurate closer. But what point can Mike Nugent not hit a field goal in the distance right? We know he can't. He probably can't do a 50-yarder because we saw him try and it was way short. Can he do a 45-yarder? Is he going to get that distance? Cardinals leave long field goals. And I have all those stats. I'm going to throw it on the podcast when we talk about it. Good win by the Cardinals, back in 7th place on the playoff deal. Again, Cardinals Rewind podcast. Look for that. I posted, of course, at the Main Event Pod. Appreciate everybody that watches and listens to that and gives me feedback on it and we talk about it. I appreciate it very much. Washington football team goes in and just 49ers have waved the white flag. They're ready to be done on the season. Injuries are taking a thing here. The one bad thing out of this game for the Washington football team, they won the game. They're in the playoff race, baby. They're an elite in that division, so that means they're in the playoffs. Alex Smith went out due to an injury, though. The defense is great. Chase Young is a stud young defender, defensive lineman. Chase Young is a stud. Unblockable almost. The defense is all right. They're going to win a few more games in these last 3 seasons. They'll win 1 or 2 more games. Alex Smith, though, the thing that worries you is he went out due to an injury. They need Alex Smith in there to go on this run. Absolutely do. Chase Young's going to win the Defensive Rookie of the Year the way he's playing in there. Nick Mullins is not the answer in San Francisco by any stretch. I don't know why they keep playing him. You mean to tell me that the other backup back there would be just as bad? It's bad. So Alex Smith came out, has a calf injury. They're not sure if he'll be able to play this weekend. Dwayne Haskins took over for him when he went out at when Alex Smith went out at halftime with that calf injury. I think with Alex Smith, I expect the Washington football team to make the playoffs and win that division. Without him, not so sure. I think the Giants might pull it out. As bad as that division is, with 6 wins they lead with now. What is Washington? Was that their 6th win? That was their 6th win. 6-7 now. Of course, the Niners, have so many injuries this year. Debo Samuel went out, exited the game on the first play, never came back in. Just that offense is just hurting right now. Green Bay at Lions. Of course, Lions won last week with after their with their coaching bumps and everything, or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. They got to face the Green Bay Packers. Hey, they put up a fight. The Packers are NFC North champions with this victory. I don't know how good the Packers are. Can they compete with the Saints? Can they compete with some of these other NFC teams with good defenses? Second straight division title for the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay's 10-3 now. I mean, they shut down the Lions' run. They controlled the clock. They had majority of the time of possession, which is good to see for Green Bay in the playoffs. The question is, and after this game, is Aaron Rodgers beating out Patrick Mahomes for MVP? I think there's going to be some Patrick Mahomes fatigue on the MVP chant, on the MVP talk. So I think that Aaron Rodgers might beat him out just from that fatigue. But like I said, the Lions have had a huge uptick since they got rid of Matt Patricia there. They won their first week. Detroit has been competitive last 2 weeks with Darrell Bevell as their head coach. Detroit's 5-8 on the season. Matthew Stafford got hurt in this game. I believe ribs, if I remember correctly. We'll see if he plays this weekend. There's no shame in losing in Green Bay. They're the better team. But the Lions made a game of it. Jets at Seahawks. Jets are the Jets. Can we make fun of Adam Gase this week again like we have? Yeah, it's possible. Could always make fun of him. Seattle had that absolutely garbage loss to the Giants the week before at home. They get the Jets this weekend. Seattle's 9-4 on the season, and they just dominated this game. Rams and Seahawks are tied at the top of the NFC West now. Russell Wilson bounced back after that awful trouncing with the Giants. The Jets did have a 3-0 lead, though, in this game, at the beginning of the game. And then they just looked like garbage. I had to start Frank Gore this weekend in one of my leagues because my other quarterbacks were inactive. Fournette went inactive for whatever reason. And I was looking at the point, and I was like, yeah, this isn't going well for the Jets. I didn't have to look at the score to know how bad it was going. 3 missed field goals for the Jets. Jamal Adams sacked Sam Darnold to get his 8.5 sack of the year. The most in a DB in a season all time. Of course, if you remember, Jamal Adams played for the Jets, wanted to be traded. They traded him to Seattle. Greg Williams, the now fired Greg Williams in New York, said he'll be bored in the Seattle defense, won't play very well, and he's reached 8.5 sacks on the year, the most by a DB in a season. By the way, and he missed some games too. Whoops. Greg Williams and that Jets coaching staff obviously can't judge talent. They let a good one go. Chris Carson, finally back for Seahawks. It's his third game back, but he finally looked like a running back again. 76 yards on 12 carries. It's his highest in a long time, since like week 4. Carlos Hyde was still in there, 15 of 66 yards. That offense runs with those running backs. I expect to see the Seattle offense these next 3 weeks with both their running backs back to be pretty good and be pretty dominant. Cowboys played the Bengals. Look, anything that's wrong with your team gets better when you play the Jets and the Bengals right now with Joe Burrow being out. Of course, Andy Dalton was returned to Cincinnati for the first time, and Cowboys just won. I mean, the Cowboys in this game were outgained in total yards, 309 to 272. They were 5-11. Cowboys offense was 5-11 on third down. Settled for 2 field goals inside the red zone. Dalton was missing long throws to open guys. Ezekiel Elliott continues to earn his high-powered paycheck. He got just 48 yards on 12 carries. He hasn't made a touchdown running the ball since week 5. Cowboys were lucky they were playing the Bengals because they won. Titans at Jaguars, another mismatch game. Tennessee won 31-10. Ryan Tannehill, deep arm showed up, deep throw ability throwed up on this one. Titans improved to 9-4. James Robertson for Jacksonville, though, is amazing. A running back. Undrafted running back, no less. James Robinson, the running back for Jacksonville, joined Tennessee's Derrick Henry, who had 215 yards and 2 scores on Sunday, and Minnesota's Dalvin Cook as the NFL's only 1,000-yard rusher so far this season. He didn't have a great game running. He was bottled up by that Titans defense, but he did break a 46-yard run in the fourth quarter to hit that 1,000-yard mark. Mike Glennon, after looking fairly decent in a couple games this year, even though they lost, he had a rough day. And the Jaguars put back in Gardner Minshew. Of course, they've named Gardner Minshew the starter going into this weekend here as well. So let's see if Minshew can get some of that magic going here for the Jacksonville again, because they kind of lost it with the other quarterbacks. Houston at the Bears, Chicago Bears. Come back and win a game finally. They're still in the playoff hunt, folks. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Trubisky's looked pretty good in the first half, but that was because the quarterback, finally, Matt Nagy in that offensive scheme, gave Trubisky easy, quick reads and rolled him out of the pocket often. That's his strength. They don't do it enough for him. That Texans defense could not stop it. He tossed 178 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. He looked good. Receivers were catching the ball and running with it, getting some extra yards. Of course, David Montgomery is a beast running back for that Bears team, man. 80-yard touchdown to start the game. First play from scrimmage. Of course, then what happens, right? Trubisky has a good first half. They do all these nice things to get him in successful positions. In second half, they start to sputter. They don't do the same things anymore. And they sputtered, but it didn't matter because once Watson went out with the injury, Houston couldn't do anything. They already could barely do anything, and they did nothing. No receivers were getting open for Watson, Deshaun. He was sacked 6 times. He had to scramble to get any positive action because the receivers couldn't get open. It's not good. Watson did finish with 219 yards and a touchdown, completed 70% of his passes, 7 rushes, 38 yards. You can't leave it to Deshaun Watson to win these games if nobody else is going to help. One man can't beat 11. We'll see what Deshaun Watson's health is like this weekend for them. Falcons play the Chargers. Everybody, there's been some debate on if Anthony Lynn needs to keep his job in Chargers land. Whew. I think he's gone. I think this game kind of seals it. It makes a lot of bad coaching errors, timeouts, time management, game calling. But Mike Bagley, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Mike Bagley of the Chargers kicked a game-winning 43-yard field goal to end the game. So Chargers actually won a close one at the end. Both of these teams have all these losses late in the season, late in the game in a shocking fashion. And this time the Chargers were the one that get over the top. A few interceptions by both teams. Matt Ryan looked awful in this game also. A lot of interceptions by both teams, especially in the fourth quarter. It was a brutal game to watch. Herbert didn't light it up, but he had a good game. 36 of 44, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did have the interception. But that's because, it looked bad. And then Matt Ryan turned around and threw an even worse interception. Gave the ball back to the Chargers. Check out this stat. Because if you follow me on my Cardinals podcast, I talk a lot about time of possession, how it leads to defensive success and non-success. Check this stat out. I'm just going to read it directly from the from NFL.com page that I'm looking at here, because I found this and it was fanatic. It was fantastic. I'm going to read it directly. The time of possession battle is overrated when the offense winning that battle isn't turning possessions into points. Atlanta lost the battle by more than 9 minutes, yet managed to lead and hold on to a tie because of its efficiency on scoring drives. East of Atlanta's scoring possessions finished inside 4 minutes, going 75 yards in 3 minutes, 36 seconds for the Falcons' first touchdown. That was a 39-yard pass there to Calvin Ridley. 40 yards in 3 minutes, 46 seconds, which is the 45-yard field goal. And 75 yards in 3 minutes, 22 seconds. That was a 9-yard pass to Laquan Treadwell. So basically, they had the ball for a long time, but they scored quickly on their scoring possessions. You don't see a lot of 75-yard, 40 yards and 75 yards all being done in under 4 minutes. Fantastic. Time of possession is just one of those stats that's just fun to watch for me. I don't know why. Broncos-Panthers. Broncos going to win 32-27. Good job, man. Drew Lock had a decent game. Jerry Jeudy, receiver for the Broncos, had a good game. Locke finally had a good game in long passes. That was one of the things, is he was check down guy and couldn't complete long passes. 5 completions of 25-plus yards. He had a nice 49-yard bomb. If you didn't see that, 49-yard pass to a receiver is fantastic to watch. A lot of miscues for the Carolina's defense. They left some people open. Obviously, some long passes, never good. Denver just got to Teddy Bridgewater a lot. Teddy Bridgewater struggled a lot down there. And the Broncos finally get a victory. Good for them, right? Absolutely stellar. So we talked about it before. Playoffs picture is updated. Of course, I said on the AFC clinched the playoff spots. Chiefs and Steelers both clinched this weekend. Both division winners. But the Steelers fall to the 2 spot because, of course, the Chiefs only have 1 loss on the season. The Bills are in the 3rd spot. I don't know if they've locked up the. They haven't obviously clinched it. They haven't clinched the division yet. 10-3 on the season. They got the Steelers this weekend. I'm sorry, they had the Steelers this weekend. So still in there. Titans are in the 4th spot. Browns are in the 5th spot. Colts are in the 6th spot. Dolphins are in the 7th spot at 8-5. Ravens are 8-5. Outside 8 looking in. Be interesting to see if with the Ravens winning here, what happens. NFC, of course, like I said, Packers and Saints have both clinched playoff spots. Both 10-3. Because of the Saints' loss to the Eagles. They're now the 2nd seed. Packers are the 1 seed. And they've clinched their division, the Packers. So, Steelers have not clinched their division yet. They've just clinched the playoff spot, by the way. Rams are in the 3rd spot, obviously leading that division. They're tied with Seattle right now. I think the Rams have the playoff, have the tiebreaker, but I could be wrong on that. Washington, of course, switched with the Giants. Seahawks are in the 5th spot. Buccaneers are in the 6th spot at 8-5. Cardinals are in the 7th spot at 7-6. So the Cardinals can actually move up in front of the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers faltered all, and the Cardinals continue to win. Problem is the Vikings are the 6 and 7, right? And the 8th seed, Bears are 6 and 7. So those are the 2 teams. The Lions are 5 and 8. They're not going to make it. Even if they win 3, they're going to go 8 and 8. Cardinals will win at least 1 more, probably 2 more. So they just got to watch the Vikings and the Bears and make sure they don't catch them. I mean, it's possible it happens, but something to watch there as we go forward on who is going to do that. So it's the NFL as we get through it here. Like I said, I got to do the Cardinals Rewind. I got a lot of stats and stuff I'm going to go through on that. And I don't break it down stats. I don't make it boring. It's just things that I watch, things I pay attention to. The place kicking side of it is interesting to me. And things to look out for. You all know how I watch stuff ahead of time and pay attention to other issues that are going on in the world. So, breaking football news, Chris Spielman is going to join the Lions organization as a special assistant to the chairman and president and CEO. Obviously, they're looking for a new GM and a new head coach as well, but they brought home some history, of some players from that thing. They know the organization, and they certainly know the structure and, hopefully how to win and all that good stuff, right? Ronald Jones of the Buccaneers over the weekend. He's ready to go. He's about to undergo He's about
the Dolphins once again are hurting at the
undergo finger surgery with a finger issue. He's going to have a pin placed in his fractured pinky finger today. So they don't know when he's going to return. It's interesting because the Buccaneers scratched Leonard Fournette. He was healthy this weekend, and they scratched him, put him on the inactive list. So is he going to be happy to go in there? Of course, they have LaShawn McCoy there as well that has been playing. Interesting to see how they handle that because the Buccaneers need to keep winning. They lose, they can get knocked out of the playoffs. Steelers, we talked about their lack of running game. James Conner suffered a quad injury and could be limited early this week. So we'll have to see how he goes moving for this weekend's game. Steelers are in trouble. We've talked about that. Of course, I know this because Devontae Parker is on my fantasy team and scored me 0 points this weekend. He suffered a slight hamstring strain. So who knows if he's going to play this weekend against the Patriots. Dolphins need a win. Dolphins need to keep winning to stay in the playoff hunt. Absolutely no doubt about it. I don't know if they can, hold on to it. Frank Wright, the coach of the Colts, I find this funny, came out and said Phillip Rivers has multiple years left in him if he wants it. No, he doesn't. Not at a high-level quarterback, he doesn't. Just interesting times, right, as we go through it. I'm sorry, Frank Wright. That is just not the case. I know you got to say it. He's your quarterback, and you got to say it. But it ain't going to help. So as we said earlier, the Greek Freak goes out there, gets his big contract extension, biggest in NBA history. And then Luka, of course, for the Dallas Mavericks, leads Giannis as betting favorite to win the MVP this year. Of course, Giannis won the MVP last year. Be a favorite this year as well. But looks like the bettors have Luka winning that award over him. So a lot of changes coming up, especially on the NFL side with injuries, with 3 games to go. A lot of teams are in this hunt. A lot of things are changing with Jones going out for the Buccaneers. What's going to happen with, running games? What's going to happen with some of these kicking teams with the Vikings? Of course, last night, Lamar Jackson went out. They put in McSorley. They think he got injured, so he had to come back. Jackson had to come back in. They're saying today McSorley has most likely a sprained knee. Man, did he look like somebody shot him, though, right? Ooh, did not look good how he went down by any stretch. But last night was one of the funnest games I've seen in a long time in the NFL. Not going to lie about it. So let's get to the picks real quick here. Of course, we had Cardinals at Giants, Chiefs at Dolphins, Colts at Raiders, Steelers at Bills, Ravens at Browns. We had a bonus game, Vikings at Bucks. We'll just break it down here. Kaler went 3-3. Womp, womp. Going to have to give him a hard time later on. He had the Cardinals, Chiefs, and Colts. He lost with the Steelers, Browns, and Vikings. Isaiah, producer on the radio show on 1580, went 4-2. He's been picking pretty well lately. Cardinals, Chiefs, Colts, and Bucks were his winners. Steelers and Browns were his losers. I left me and Adam for last. I'm going to brag a little bit. Both of us went 6-0, baby. 6-0. Of course, picked the Bills over the Steelers was the big difference, and then picked the Ravens over the Browns. Fantastic. 6-0 weekend. Can't argue with that. All Access crew had a good weekend as well. Both of them. Both Autumn, which is intern, and Miguel. 5-1 on this the weekend. Intern's loss was the Dolphins, and Miguel's loss was the Browns. I don't know why she went with the Dolphins over the Chiefs. She could have had an undefended weekend. She'll hear this and then get mad at me for pointing that out. Don't go against the Chiefs very often, right? So, fantastic weekend picks this week. We'll have it again. We're coming out to the end. Get the totals up there and see who wins it. That's what I'm excited about. I just don't want the totals out there because I don't want people to fade picks. Like if I pick, like if I have the lead and somebody's trying to catch me, I don't want them to pick a team because they're like, oh, I got to pick a team to catch him and he misses on. I just don't want that to happen. So that's why we're just doing individuals, and it'll be a surprise for everybody as we go on. So that's the show today. Just a quick recap. I'll be back Wednesday night. I'll announce, of course, on the At the Main Event Pod, 1580 The Fanatic, at the show going there. And then Friday, be back Friday to look forward to the weekend coming up and announce any plans going forward that we might have. Some exciting things in the works for the show, not just the podcast, but also radio show coming up here that be exciting to talk about if they happen and what happens here at the end of the year. So appreciate everybody listening. We can't do this without you guys. Follow me on Twitter. Personal is at SMAC500, SMAC500. Of course, Twitter and Facebook as well, at the Main Event Pod. Do all the show notes. Interact with me. Watch for the Cardinals Rewind podcast, Big Steve's Thoughts that I put out occasionally. It's just when thoughts come to me during a game and I can't hold it for a show. Want to get it out there. Good times. I appreciate everybody listening, and we'll all see you Wednesday night.